Charlie Pearl. He had it all. Money.
I'm very good at inheriting money. I may be the best in my field.
Charm.
Oh, Charlie.
And the daughter of the most powerful man in Hollywood, Adele Horner.
I've been out with every starlet from Paramount to Warner Brothers, but that was before I met Adele.
Is it having $30 million that makes you so cocky?
In 6 short days, Charlie and Adele were going to be married.
I wish we didn't have to wait 6 days.
Every honeybee fills with jealousy.
Sometimes it's good to wait. For example.
I don't blame them. Goodness knows, honey, something.
But a funny thing happened on the way to the altar.
When I'm taking steps from your twisted
Charlie Pearl fell head over heels for a big-time gangster's girl.
She's Bugsy Siegel's girl. Is there any way that I could see you later on tonight?
Sure. If you don't mind looking up from a grave.
Some things are worth risking your life for.
You're an animal.
You leave some pretty good teeth marks yourself.
I gotta see you again, Vicky.
You'll have to take it up with Bugsy.
Gee, that's the first time you've ever called me Bugsy.
Oh, this is bad.
Well,
This is so bad.
Guess what, Charlie? You slept with my girl? Well, now you marry her.
What's Adele going to say?
Step up to the altar.
What's her father going to say?
We sent out 400 wedding invitations.
we'll get in and out as soon as we get back to L.A.
You were kidnapped and forced to get married at gunpoint.
At gunpoint? What is that? A new crime wave? They grab people on the street and make them get married?
Do you still want her?
No.
Don't lie.
A little, but it'll go away.
You're driving me crazy. What did I do? Baby, whatever did I do?
Would the ex Mrs. Pearl like to become the next Mrs. Pearl?
You know what the odds are on this happening? Impossible to 1.
And so Charlie found what he was looking for.
Do you, Charles Raymond Pearl?
I do.
Not yet.
I do.
Last time he tells us he got married at gunpoint. What do they have this time? A cannon up his ass?
And before it's over,
Somebody put a love curse on us.
they're going to get married again, and again, and again.
What? Just one drink? No. Every time you stop by for a drink, you got to get married a couple of times.
Hollywood Pictures presents Alec Baldwin and Kim Basinger
Oh, wait! I'm going, but I'm taking you with me. Why do you want to marry the same woman 4 times? It fits.
Neil Simon's The Marrying Man.
Yeah, this is another one of those movies that has one of those bizarre production histories. Where do we even begin? The production apparently was a production from hell, according to some of the people that worked on the movie, or at least that's what they said in Premiere Magazine, which that tells you how old this movie is, because Premiere Magazine was still a thing. They painted Kim Basinger and Alec Baldwin as petulant, spoiled, and generally unprofessional. They said that they fell in love at the beginning of the shoot, and sometimes kept the crew waiting for hours before showing up on set. You could probably tell what they were doing there. Baldwin threw violent temper tantrums, during which he tossed a chair, smashed camera lenses, punched a dent in his trailer, swore at cast members. Kim Basinger refused to do extra takes, demanded consistent delays to fix her hair. Neil Simon actually stormed off the set and said to him one day, "This isn't funny. Whoever wrote this doesn't understand comedy." And the original budget for this was $15 million, which jumped up to $26 million. And one of the producers, David Perlman, presented each member of the cast with a t-shirt and with the phrase, "I survived the reshoot of The Marrying Man." So, yeah, you could kind of tell where this is going to go. The movie ended up being a huge, massive disappointment. It only brought back half of the budget from the updated budget, I should say. It only brought back $12.5 million, was thrashed by critics, and, sadly, you could kind of see why. I mean, I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. This was not a very good movie, and it's a shame, too, because here's the thing. Alec Baldwin and Kim Basinger have shown off the comedy potential that they have whenever they work on a movie. They have a lot of great comedic abilities that they've shown in the years since this movie's come out. Of course, Kim Basinger was in Wayne's World 2. She's been a great actress in other movies, such as L.A. Confidential, which she won the Oscar for. And Alec Baldwin, really, you don't need to say anything except show him the stuff from 30 Rock and Saturday Night Live. He's proven that he's got comedic abilities that actually have worked. Sometimes not so much, but overall, he's been a really good actor. This movie has a lot of really good actors. Robert Loge is also in here. Elizabeth Shue, Armand Assante, Paul Reiser, Fisher Stevens. Yeah, this was just a colossal misfire on so many levels. This is like Scenes from a Mall, except to this movie's credit, there were a couple of moments that I'm not gonna lie, I did kind of laugh. I didn't laugh a lot during this, but certainly a lot more than I did with Scenes from a Mall. Scenes from a Mall was just an uncomfortable movie, watching these two people, Woody Allen and Bette Midler, just bickering for like over an hour and a half, and it's just like, luckily there's not that much of that here, but then again, that's really not saying much here. This movie just doesn't work, and despite everything that they have for it, there's a good, Baldwin and Basinger have proven they have some good chemistry together on screen. Of course, they would eventually get together in real life, and would actually do a couple of other movies together and TV shows. Of course, they did The Getaway a couple of years later, and then they appeared on The Simpsons with Ron Howard in an episode. But, when you don't have a good script to work with, it's just, the result speaks for itself. I mean, this is not a very good movie, and it's a shame too, because there is a good idea here. I mean, the script, the two people in the film have good chemistry together, but the behind the scenes antics, everything that just happened behind the scenes, and it just shows up on screen here, and it's not a really good movie. It's just not a good movie at all. It's so much so that Alec Baldwin has since said that it was the biggest mistake of his career, and he actually said this just after the film was released. That should tell you everything you need to know. And, yeah, man, I mean, really, there's not much more I could say about this movie. I mean, troubled productions like this, sometimes when the production is troubled, you do end up getting somewhat of a good movie, but most of the time, it ends up like this, a movie that has a lot of potential story-wise, a good cast to work off of, but just everything that goes on behind the scenes, and this feeling of just, okay, let's get this over with so we can get the hell on out of here. It just doesn't work. It's unfortunate. It's an unfortunate mess, and, yeah, it's just not a very good movie. It's a really badly executed film that just failed on so many levels and rightfully deserved a bomb like this. And it's also a weird movie too, because the director of this, Jerry Rees, was actually a longtime animator at Disney. I mean, this is a guy who is like, that name may not sound familiar to people, but if you look at his credits, I mean, this is the guy that directed The Brave Little Toaster. This is the guy that worked on films like Pete's Dragon. He worked on The Small One, Animal Olympics, The Fox and the Hound, Tron, The Black Cauldron. He was one of the animators on Space Jam. He did all these classic Disney shorts, like the Small One, Winnie the Pooh, A Day with Eeyore, Mickey's Christmas Carol. Did a bunch of those movies for the Disney theme parks. He did the stuff for the extraterrestrial alien encounter ride. He did the stuff for the Rock and Roller Coaster starring Aerosmith, the dinosaur exhibit at the Animal Kingdom. I mean, he's done a lot of good stuff, and just given this opportunity here, it's not. I don't really blame him for it. He was just put in a bad situation with everything going on behind the scenes. That really, I think he was just brought in to be the scapegoat, to be in this situation, because he never directed another movie after this, unfortunately. Although he did do a couple direct-to-video films, but never anything on the big screen again. And it's a shame, because you look at his work, and it's just like, this guy clearly had potential to become a really good director if he had been given the right material to work with, and he wasn't in such a project that was in such hell, and it just fails miserably. And it's a shame. I really would have liked to see what he could have done with another movie, but, so yeah, that's really all I have to say about The Marrying Man. It's obviously a bad movie, a huge misfire on pretty much everybody involved, and it's just not a very good movie. It's one of the biggest comedy misfires of all time, quite honestly, when you have Kim Basinger and Alec Baldwin and Neil Simon working together on a project, and it fails this badly. It's just, I mean, there's really not much more I can say about it. It's not a very good, it's just a terrible movie, plain and simple.
It's miles from civilization, but just one subway stop from Manhattan,
Hey, you want a party?
Brooklyn. They were friends,
Ever since we was little.
born on these streets.
One of us, family.
Now, after 15 years,
Who ever thought that I would have become a cop, huh?
they will play cops and robbers one more time. But this time,
Richie got out of the car and just stepped up, bang.
it's no game.
3 of his crew were with him.
Steven Seagal,
I know this guy better than anybody else. I know the neighborhood better than anybody else.
out for justice.
I'm gonna keep coming back until somebody remembers seeing Richie.
You know our ways. You must be dealt with by us.
Over here, Sal.
Get in the car!
I'll find this guy before you do. You know what I'm gonna do.
So you still call me here like a girl.
The body count's going up, Gino.
I'm starting to get in a bad mood, you know? Maybe it's like a mood swing, my hormones, I don't know.
In this neighborhood, someone's got to take out the garbage. Steven Seagal, out for justice.
I'm looking for Richie! Richie! Where's Richie? And, I'm sorry for that. That's the only thing I really remember from this movie is just Steven Seagal with his fake as hell Brooklyn accent. But, yeah, it's out for justice. It's another Steven Seagal movie. It is what it is, and, yeah, that's the only thing I remember is that bad Brooklyn accent by Steven Seagal. But, like I said before, people love what he did back then, and, like, a lot of his movies, his early movies were big successes back then, and this is another one that was a huge success. Was the top movie at the box office for like 2 weeks in a row, and yeah, people seem to still hold it in high regard, even though the movie was thrashed by critics as the other ones were. But me personally, I didn't think it was all that great. Like I said, the only real reason I remember this movie is because of how bad that accent was on Steven Seagal. But other than that, though, it's pretty much just the same Steven Seagal movie over and over again. It's pretty much the same premise, same type of bad guy, same type of action sequences, and it's just like, okay, is that really all you're going to do here? And it's just like when Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone do something similar to this, where they do the same thing over and over again, they add at least something to it. Like, Steven Seagal adds nothing to it. It's pretty much just same character, same situation, same story, same way it's going to go. It's just like, we've seen all this over and over again, and it's just like, is this really all you're going to be able to do, dude? But luckily, there was a brief period where he actually did have something more to him, because I believe the next movie he did was Under Siege, which we'll get to that one when we get to 92. But, yeah, like I said, this movie's not all that great, at least to me. As somebody who wasn't a big fan of most of Steven Seagal's other movies, this one didn't win me over all that much. Won most people over who were fans of his early works, but, not me personally. So, yeah, how many times can I say in this video? I say that a lot all the time, too. I don't know. It's that straight off the cuff, just right out, it's freeform conversation thing that I have going on here. I realize that, but, here I go again. Let's go ahead and move on to the next movie, and the next movie is John Malkovich and Andy McDowell in The Object of Beauty.
They're sexy, sophisticated, and successful. Jake and Tina could have it all if they could just work out a few small problems.
You've always said when it comes to food, shoes, and sex, price is no object.
But shoes are important. Your credit cards be refused. I am on the verge of something very lucrative. So for you to even be talking about dishonoring one of my checks really puts me in a very sweaty mode. You take a long time, by the way.
Well, it's worth it.
You'd be very popular with the lads at room service.
I have been 327. I'll tighten up. Why is your tip's good and mine be naked?
Don't be such a prude, Jake. The human body's a beautiful thing.
So, flash on it.
Pino, we're in real trouble now. You have to trust me.
Where were you? And don't tell me that you were out buying cigars, because I know you can have them sent
Yeah,
out.
I went somewhere else, okay?
Well, Tina's my friend. Why me?
All I know are gamblers and brokers and bankers, and they're mostly men, and I hate men, and you're not a man. I'm in love with Jake.
Yes, I'm in love with Jake.
Then I can't help you.
And you're worth sticking to.
Why?
As far as I'm concerned.
I love you.
Likewise.
John Malkovich.
Please don't talk about liquidating me. Teddy, I am asking for grace. Grace?
Andy McDowell.
Jane, I've got a very naughty idea.
The object of beauty.
This is one of those comedies where your two leads really need to have good chemistry in order for this to work all together. And, I mean, it works a little bit, but really there isn't a whole lot there story-wise for these two to really work off of. I mean, both John Malkovich and Andy McDowell are trying their best here, and they do have some good chemistry here, but the script overall is just very mediocre. I mean, there's no real conflicts. There's nothing really all that spectacular or all that engaging. Even for a real-life couple that, like, they're trying to be in this movie, it does really fall flat, and it's a shame, too, because this seemed like it could have some potential to it, but yeah, really, it doesn't really work as well as I thought it would. I think Malkovich and McDowell do their best, and they do have some chemistry that works in a couple of scenes, but unfortunately it doesn't work all the way around. You don't really buy into their characters whatsoever, and it's a shame, because like I said, there is potential here, and these two seem like a good representation of a realistic couple, but even realistic couples have some sort of drama to work with, but no, it's just dull. I mean, this is really a dull movie, and I was very disappointed by it because I had seen the good word of mouth coming from the critics' reviews that I saw for it, but yeah, I was very disappointed when I saw this movie. This is a real letdown of a film, especially with the leading actors involved here. But yeah, unfortunately, this is a disappointment on so many levels, and it really was a shame that I didn't like it more than I would have liked to. So, with that said, let's get on to the last movie, and the last movie is Impromptu.
It was a time of music, poetry, and romance, when artists were idolized as gods. And Madame George Sand was scandalizing Paris with her illicit love affairs.
Madame George Sand is quite brazenly inviting herself to the fortnight. You know the one. She wears men's clothes and leads the most depraved life imaginable. I'm dying to meet her. Has anyone ever met this Duchess?
George, you want to sit over here, my dear? All the respectable people are on the other side.
Devouring men with her desires. Destroying them with her passion.
You followed me. You knew I was down.
You're starting up with him again. Sooner she'll glance.
In a time of tantalizing talent.
Don't you realize these are the great geniuses of our time, all gathered together in our home?
And impromptu affairs.
Period piece drama. You got a great cast involved in here, including Judy Davis, Hugh Grant, Mandy Patinkin, Bernadette Peters, Julia Sands, Ralph Brown, Emma Thompson. And, I mean, most of them do a pretty good job here. This is one of those movies where, even if you're not the biggest period piece fan, you can still enjoy this movie, mostly because you're invested in the story, you're invested in these characters a lot. It is a good movie. It's a really enjoyable film. I was actually pleasantly surprised when I watched it the first time. It is a fun movie. These actors put a good effort into their performances. The writing is very well done. The cinematography is very good. It is what it is. It's a fun movie. I think it's a very good time to watch. Even if you're not the biggest fan of these period piece type of dramas, you can still find a lot to find in this movie. And I recommend Impromptu if you can find it.
Did you think you would get away with this?
I didn't think that she would go through with it. It was a sick game.
Listen to me. We are friends, and we are going to watch out for each other forever.
Something terrible happened that night.
I mean, you have a friend, two friends married. We're at each other's throats.
When are you gonna start listening to me, huh?
So what if I want to have another baby?
No, because we already talked about this and you know that. You get this
care of.
Something no one wanted to talk about.
You used to be such a happy-go-lucky guy.
Well, I'm very happy-go-lucky. Guess who? We're partying, baby.
I'm gonna kill him one of these days, so help me God.
Something no one could put their finger on.
I'm really afraid, Joyce. I mean, I don't think that we're doing the right thing.
Look, I warned you about those two. They're crazy. They're animals. Anything can happen with them.
Something no one.
Somebody's talking. They ask questions like somebody knows something, like somebody said something.
Something just doesn't sit right here. The night James was murdered, you said you told your husband everything.
I didn't do anything.
I mean, you're really caught in the middle now. You got to make a choice here.
I made my choice. It's over. You think it's over?
You knew what was happening. You let it happen.
Some secrets you keep.
What you want is a lie.
Others you kill for.
I mean, the woman's a murderer.
Somebody help me!
Unless, of course, she isn't a murderer.
Demi Moore, Glenn Headley, Bruce Willis, John Pankow, and Harvey Keitel. Mortal Thoughts.
So the premise of Mortal Thoughts is that Demi Moore plays a woman who's involved in the violent murder of her friend's abusive, drug-addicted husband, played by Bruce Willis. The friend is played by Glenn Headley. The title for the film comes from a quote from William Shakespeare's The Tragedy of Macbeth, which, as many of you know, if you've been recently, they had The Tragedy of Macbeth with the Coen brothers, with Denzel Washington, which was actually a pretty good movie. But, yeah, the story really doesn't have too much to do with the film here, but I just found that was interesting on Wikipedia to look that up. But, yeah, like I said before, this is actually a pretty damn good movie. It's a very good mystery thriller film, and it's one of those rare occasions where you have a couple who are both off-screen and on-screen together, and the movie doesn't end up being completely terrible, because that easily could have been the case with this, with Demi Moore and Bruce Willis, who were about 4 years married when this movie came out. But, yeah, the movie's pretty good. It's a really good movie. There are a lot of great performances in this movie. Demi Moore, I think, gives one of her best performances as a leading actress. Glenn Headley, who has been a great character actress over the years when she was working, and she gets a chance to shine in this movie, and every time she's on screen in here, she gives a really good performance. I thought Bruce Willis gave one of the best performances of the movie besides Moore, because he plays a character that's kind of outside of his normal shtick, and it's very good. It's a really good performance. A performance that's very comical, but at the same time very terrifying at times. Like, you know that this guy's going to be involved in something very serious, and he's not the best person to be around, but you still are kind of invested in what he's going to do. You also have John Pankow in this, and Harvey Keitel playing the police officer. It's a very good movie. It's a very good mystery, too, because you really don't know, because the mystery is what makes this stand out the best, because you never really can tell what direction it's going to go into. You think you might know. You think maybe Demi Moore is going to be the centerpiece of it, and she kind of is, but at the same time, there really isn't. And it does keep you on the edge of your seat to figure out what this is going to transpire when we get to the very end. Like, who's going to be the killer? Who's going to be the reasoning behind everything? And like I said, it's a very good movie. It's not only a thrilling movie, a great mystery, some great dramatic elements all around. There's even some good bits of black comedy in there, too, which is actually kind of interesting. But, yeah, there's not really much more I can add to this movie, but I think it's one of Alan Rudolph's best films. It's a movie that did not get a whole lot of attention back then. It did make money at the box office. It actually, if I remember correctly, looking up the research for this, I think it only opened in 1,000 theaters on this weekend before expanding into wider release. And even when it did open, it actually was in the top 3 of the top grossing films of the weekend. So for something that under 1,000 theaters, that was actually pretty impressive still for the time. And yeah, like I said, it's a very good movie. It's a really good underrated film. It's probably my favorite movie from Alan Rudolph as a director. I haven't been the biggest fan of his works. I know the last movie that I talked about on here, Love at Large, was not very good, at least in my opinion, but yeah, like I said, Mortal Thoughts is a very good movie. It's a very underrated film, a very underrated thriller, especially for Willis and probably the best movie to come out for both Willis and Moore in '91, because they both had major bombs in this year. Demi Moore had Nothing But Trouble, which we already looked at, and Bruce Willis will have Hudson Hawk coming up in the next month that we'll get into when we get to that movie. But this was the best movie that came out for both of them in '91, in my opinion. Unless I'm completely forgetting one, but I don't think I am. If I am, I'll just say that when we get to that. But I don't think I am. But yeah, the point of the matter is, Mortal Thoughts is actually a really good thriller. You can definitely find it somewhere on DVD, Blu-ray, streaming, wherever. If you can, I'd say definitely check it out. I mean, I say if I can, you can probably find it there pretty easily. But yeah, I highly recommend Mortal Thoughts. If you haven't seen it, definitely go check it out. Especially if you're looking for a good, underrated mystery thriller, this is definitely going to fit right up your alley.
The year is 1931, and gangster Snaps Provolone is in control. The police are powerless. His rivals are helpless. No one in the entire city dares to defy him, except his daughter.
I'm a modern 30s woman. Look!
Put that away! I'm your father! She'll do anything, anywhere, with anybody.
Your daughter and I are lovers.
What?
Did he tell you I was pregnant?
What? Touchstone Pictures presents Sylvester Stallone in the story of a father.
What we need is a husband.
Trying to find someone.
No, look at us.
Who will marry his daughter.
I've decided to go away to a convent.
Well, you're a little late.
Maybe it'll be Anthony.
But I love Thornton.
Or Thornton.
I want Oscar.
Or Oscar.
Who's Oscar?
You've got pimple.
A couple of dates with you and that'll clear up.
But whoever she decides to spend her life with.
You mean she's having the chauffeur's baby?
It's sure to ruin his life.
I just came from Lisa's bedroom.
You and everybody else.
Sylvester Stallone. Oscar.
Unfortunately, this movie, like I said, didn't do so well at the box office, and critically it didn't do so well either. It didn't even make back its $35 million budget, and most people that saw the movie back then, they only cared about Stallone taking his clothes off and killing people, apparently. That was the only reason that people wanted to see Sylvester Stallone in movies at that point. But, yeah, like I said before, I think a lot of people really did miss the boat on this one, because not only is this movie funny, this is probably one of the best underrated comedies of all time. I mean, this is a great movie. It's a great, great movie. Now, granted, it starts off slow. It doesn't really get going until we get about 30 minutes in. But after that, when the story kicks in, and the basic premise of what they're going for starts to come into play, the movie gets really funny. Like, you could tell that the people who made this movie had this love of screwball comedies and wanted to make a modernized old-style screwball comedy, just like the old comedies of yesteryear. And it really works here. Like I said, I talked before about how people tried to copy the success of The Naked Gun and Hot Shots and trying to be like the screwball comedy type of movies that worked, but most of the time they really didn't work. This is one of those times when it really does work. You could tell that John Landis knew exactly what he wanted to do, and you could see that Sylvester Stallone really fit this role very well, and he was very funny. There are a lot of great funny moments with him involved in it, and he's got a great cast to work around with, specifically Tim Curry, such as in this great scene, which really is one of the funniest scenes in the entire movie.
Round the rough and rasp through the ragged. Oh, look, Doc, I just can't do it, huh? Never learn to speak good.
Do not despair, Mr. Provolone. Let's try a new line of attack, shall we? After me. Rocky the Rum Runner robbed out Rico the Rat with his Roscoe for robbing his rum-running receipts. Can you say that?
Rocco the Rum Runner rubbed out Rico the Rat with his Roscoe for robbing his rum-running receipts.
You did it!
Sure, you finally come up with something that makes sense.
See, there is that great charm about Stallone's performance in this movie. It feels very genuine. It feels like he really is trying to get some good laughs. And when Stallone does comedies, sadly, he doesn't have that same spark that Arnold Schwarzenegger does when he works with Ivan Reitman. At least during this time period. Later on down the road, he certainly has gotten more. There are much better movies with Stallone in a comedic role that have actually worked better for him later on down the road. But back then, when he tried to do comedies, it didn't really work out so well. Stuff like Rhinestone was a big failure. And then the next year after this, we'd have Stop or My Mom Will Shoot, which was really a bad movie, just on so many levels. Even with Ivan Reitman producing it, that movie still didn't work, but this movie does. Stallone is great in this movie, but on top of that, you have a great cast overall. Marissa Tomei in one of her first big leading roles. As I mentioned, Tim Curry's in this, Chaz Palminteri's in this, Peter Riegert, Don Amici, who else is in here? Eddie Bracken, Kurtwood Smith, Yvonne DiCarlo, Harry Shearer, Arlene Sorkin, Kirk Douglas. Just a phenomenal cast in this movie, and it's very funny. It's a very funny movie once you get past the first 30 minutes. And the first 30 minutes are not terrible, but they certainly lack what makes the rest of the movie so special and so worth running out to go check out. I highly recommend a lot of people go and check this movie out, because this movie is so hilarious. It's so funny. If you love the screwball comedies of the 30s and 40s, you're really going to love this movie. It's a really great modern screwball comedy that not a lot of people really talk about, but it definitely deserves a lot of recognition. Oscar with Sylvester Stallone. Definitely check that movie out. It's definitely going to be worth your time. So that's Oscar. Let's move ahead and move to the next movie, and that is Matt Dillon and Sean Young in A Kiss Before Dying.
Ellen Carlson finally met the perfect man.
Marry me.
Are you serious?
Church, bridesmaids, the works.
He's everything a father could hope for.
I wouldn't want you to think I intend on spending the rest of my life doing what I'm doing now. Ultimately, my ambition lies elsewhere.
Everything she'd ever dreamed of.
We're young, we're rich, we love each other.
There's only one thing wrong.
Who is it?
Bellman.
Jay is different from anyone I've known. He's got this strength.
Hey, come on. You need some help there? What you got in there, dead body?
I'm investigating the disappearance of Patricia Farron. Your wife's name was in a diary.
What are you doing?
Watching you. You look so peaceful, I don't want to take advantage of you.
Come on. Take advantage of me.
You're such a kind and loving and gentle boy.
I'm ambitious. I'm determined. And I'm not afraid of hard work.
Matt Dillon. Sean Young.
God, you scared me.
A Kiss Before Dying.
Based off of a 1956 movie, based off a book as well by Ira Levin, A Kiss Before Dying. You have Matt Dillon and Sean Young, and this is actually directed by the writer of Fatal Attraction, James Dearden. I mean, to the movie's credit, Matt Dillon's probably the best thing about this movie, and really, there is stuff in here that maybe could work, maybe could actually be good, but you really have to sit through a terrible Sean Young performance. I mean, my God. Sean Young is unbearable in this movie. I mean, she's not only a badly written character, but she plays this character like a cartoon character. Like, you never take this character seriously whatsoever. She's just there to be a stock character. She's there to be the victim. Like, she's there to be the murder victim, and it's just like, you gotta have something better than that. And Sean Young can be a good actress, but this is just a movie where it's just like, you could tell that she just took the money and ran away with it. This is a waste of a good cast, too. You got Max von Sydow in here. You also have Diane Ladd. Just a wasted cast overall here. The only one who really gives a lot of the greatness of this movie is Matt Dillon, but even that is just like, it's not really enough to see this movie. This feels like a movie that would have worked as an NBC movie of the week, or like a Lifetime original movie, and it's just like, other than that, though, it's just a waste of time and effort. I mean, yeah, Matt Dillon's the best thing about this movie, but the rest of the movie is just not that good. The script is very bad. Sean Young's performance is just the worst in this. It's not a good movie. It's not a good movie whatsoever, and it's a shame. So let's go ahead and move on to the next movie, and that is Toy Soldiers.
The Regis School for Boys, where the country's best families
Hey, bring that back here.
send the world's worst students.
If you're gonna kick me out, kick me out.
That'd make 4 prep schools in 4 years. You're trying for the Guinness Book of Records?
But these boys are in for a real shock.
Fuego! If you do not produce my father unharmed, I will begin executing the hostages. I'm sure by now you have discovered who their parents are.
Chairman of the Armed Services Committee, Vice Chairman of the Republican Party.
What does your father do, William?
Contractor?
According to this, he owns the 3rd largest construction company in the world.
Yeah, he's a contractor.
My boys, many of them, they have a real problem with authority.
Are you with me or not?
Of course we're with you.
But if you get a shot, we're gonna be PO'd.
I have the assault force in a staging area 5 minutes away.
You have seen these orange wires. These are wired to explosives.
The kid can get the other students out of the line of fire.
If any one of these wires is cut, they will explode!
This kid has been kicked out of 2 schools.
Well, 3 schools.
Yeah. No. That's the detonator.
He's got guts. He's a leader. Billy says he can do it. I gotta believe he can.
That's the signal. All right. We're really gonna do this? You bet.
Toy soldiers.
Here's another movie where a really good cast can't save the really bad material given to them. You have like I said, you have a really good cast involved here. Sean Astin, Will Wheaton, Denholm Elliott, Louis Gossett Jr., Keith Coogan. Just a great cast overall, but unfortunate, and a good premise, really. But the movie just falters from just being so predictable. I mean, it's basically Die Hard in a boarding school. That's pretty much all this is, and it's not even a good Die Hard knockoff, honestly, because nothing really exciting happens here. There's no real tension. You know how it's all going to play out. We've seen this over and over again. It just doesn't work as a movie, and it's a shame because there could be a really good premise here. There are really good ideas here, and the young cast in this is doing their best to make this work, but they just can't do it. It's just not a very good film whatsoever. It's a shame, too, because of everything that it had going for it, but just that script, man. That script is just a predictable, cliched-riddled Die Hard ripoff, pretty much. Like I said, it's Die Hard in a boarding school, and that's just not a very good movie whatsoever, so that's all you really need to say about Toy Soldiers. Now, let's go ahead and move on to a re-release that came out this weekend. It is Stanley Kubrick's classic film, Spartacus.
Spartacus, we rigged the chariot of the Centurion.
And let's rock and roll!
Nobody gets away from Centurion Buford C. Augustus!
I love you, Spartacus.
Okay, that really wasn't the trailer for Spartacus. That was actually the parody Smokey and the Spartacus from the very underrated series The Critic. And I put that there because I couldn't really find a re-release trailer for the 91 re-release of this movie. And so yeah, that's why I did that. But of course, this is Spartacus. Stanley Kubrick directed this movie, written by Dalton Trumbo, featuring an exceptional cast: Kirk Douglas, Laurence Olivier, Gene Simmons, Charles Laughton, Peter Ustinov, Tony Curtis. And they re-released this movie with a restoration backed by Steven Spielberg. They got Stanley Kubrick involved in this, even though Kubrick himself disowned the film at the time. They actually restored a lot of scenes that were lost, and they found it from different people. And they actually put them back into the movie because when they did it the first time, their preview audiences who saw the original film didn't really like it. So they restored those scenes. They put them back in there. They also put in a lot of deleted footage in there. They actually had Anthony Hopkins, who had just come off of playing Hannibal Lecter in The Silence of the Lambs, do an impersonation of Laurence Olivier's voice because Laurence Olivier had passed away in '89, so they couldn't really re-record the dialogue there. But Tony Curtis, who was in the original movie, was able to come back and re-record his part for this scene that they added back into the movie. And really, there's not much more I can say about Spartacus that hasn't already been said. It's a true epic movie. It's a well-made epic film. It features some classic moments, some great visuals for the time period that still hold up to this very day. Has a lot of quotable lines to it. And it is just an incredible movie overall. It's just a fantastic film that just still holds the test of time. Just an amazing movie. I really don't need to say any more about this movie that hasn't been said already. Spartacus is just a great film. I can't recommend it enough. If you haven't already seen it already, you should probably go out and see it. And, yeah, Spartacus. So, let's go ahead and move on to the next movie, Talent of the Game.
A baseball scout, the last of his kind, has made the discovery of his career.
How good is my son?
He's the best I've ever seen. You're one hell of a pitcher.
Starring scanned and delivers Edward James Olmos, Talent for the Game.
Okay, I should say Talent for the Game. I said Talent of the Game. But, you probably never even knew this movie even existed before I even brought it up. But, you can tell it has Edward James Olmos in it. It also has Lorraine Bracco. Directed by Robert Young. That's really all I have for this movie. I've never even seen it, but, I mean, judging by what I see here, it looks like it's trying to be Paramount's answer to Field of Dreams. It obviously didn't work because it didn't do very well, and I barely hear people ever talk about it, so they must have not done something right here. That's really all I can say about it. I haven't seen the movie, so I can't really comment on it, but, I acknowledge that it came out this weekend, but, that's really all I've got. That's Talent for the Game. I mean, I've got nothing for you. So let's go ahead and move on to the next movie. And the next movie is 1,000 Pieces of Gold.
Home Video presents the 1991 nationwide theatrical release that Jeff Lyons of Sneak Previews calls one of the best films of the year.
For the first $200, she is now prepared to show you the pleasures of the East.
The movie that inspired Michael Wilmington of the Los Angeles Times to write, along with Dances with Wolves and Young Guns 2, it is the pick of the decade.
You have to learn to act like a demon here if you want to go home rich. Don't let anyone push you around.
Rosalind Chow of White Ghost stars with Dennis Dunn of The Last Emperor in 1,000 Pieces of Gold.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever heard of a review that puts Dances with Wolves and Young Guns 2 in the same category as great movies. Well, I mean, Dances with Wolves, you could say that, but Young Guns 2? Not so much. And with this movie, 1,000 Pieces of Gold, again, it's another one I haven't seen before, but judging by it, it doesn't look too bad. I mean, it doesn't really look that visually impressive for the most part, which is surprising, because a movie like this definitely looks like it has a visual edge to it. But I mean, the premise doesn't sound too bad. You basically have I lost my train of thought there for a second. But basically, you have a plot where this girl is sold into marriage by her father. She decides not to become a bride and ends up going on into a gold mining town where she forges her own path for her own freedom and eventually finds true love. And really, it's not a bad premise. It's not a bad premise. It's one that could actually work depending on the actors involved here. And it definitely doesn't look that bad. But like I said, I can't really comment on it. I haven't seen the movie, but I haven't heard anything too bad about it. So, yeah, again, this one of them I'm just acknowledging that it came out this weekend, but definitely has more promise to it than Talent for the Game does. So, yeah, that's my quick thoughts on 1,000 Pieces of Gold. Let's go ahead and move on to the last movie, and that is the previous year's former foreign language film Oscar winner, and that is Journey of Hope.
1990 Academy Award winner for Best Foreign Film. A film about a family on a dangerous journey. A journey of dreams. A journey to a paradise that lies behind the mountains. A journey of hope.
So Journey of Hope is a co-production between companies in Switzerland, Turkey, and the United Kingdom. It follows a Turkish family trying to make it to Switzerland illegally, and they only know of this country because they've seen it on a postcard. So it is a story where it feels very much like a story that we've seen done over and over again. But for the most part, it doesn't look too bad of a movie. This is one I haven't seen before, so I can't really comment on it. But judging from the stuff I've seen, from the trailers and from the clips that I've seen online, it looks like it could be a very interesting movie. It has a good heart to it, I guess. It has an interesting idea to it, so maybe it has a chance to be something pretty good. So, yeah, it might be one I'll definitely check out one day. Journey of Hope.